The movie starts with a male lead, Wallace, sitting at the edge of the roof of his attic. He seems to be comfortably sitting there, but it was his feelings that were hurt as he was listening to the explanation of his ex-girlfriend. She claimed to give a bad justification for her actions and requested him to keep this relationship working, unknown to the thing that it was already over for Wallace. Love is stupid monkeys dancing in a hurricane. This is what Wallace was writing with the magnets on the fridge door while he was at a party. There came the female lead, Chantry, quietly noticing the weird sentence that guy in front of her has been writing with magnets. The next moment, she said sorry for quietly judging, but Wallace didn't seem to mind, and Chantry went back saying cheers. This is what their first meeting went like, without any introduction. But don't worry, a few minutes later, Chantry was there at the fridge door, writing the thing of her own when Wallace came. Suddenly, Alan appeared, who claimed to be Chantry's cousin and Wallace's friend. He made both of them introduce to each other, saying that Chantry is a great animator with her beautiful characters. Not only this, Alan also revealed the fact that how Wallace has come out of his place after a year of having an emotional heartbreak. Interrupting them, there came a gorgeous girl asking for Becky, and Alan took her with him. While Chantry and Wallace stayed there, they started the conversation how they don't like parties and small talks. Wallace corrected Chantry's pronunciation of a word which he later said was his old thing. Here, Wallace told he had a particular job, lives in his sister's attic, and is not much social. Later, when they both separately came to the door to take their coat and leave, they met again and joked about how they were leaving, without saying a proper goodbye. Later, as they got to know that they live in the same direction, they had a little walk together. Chantry's house came first, and she ended up giving her number to Wallace on a piece of paper, also revealing that she had a boyfriend. Upon hearing about her boyfriend, he seemed to be confused for just a moment, but he compassed and said their goodbyes. Wallace got home and realized, sitting on the roof, staring at her number, that how he had a real good time with someone after such a long time. But still, he let go of that paper, which had an animation of a girl on its backside. The paper flew with the wind, as if that drawn girl finally had wings to fly. Later, Wallace is seen asking his sister when would she be home after the date. When his sister left, he did the same thing with Felix, his nephew, which his sister strictly told him not to, which included watching a horror movie. Unfortunately, his sister arrived early and also joined them. Some days later, Chantry went to cinema to see one of her favorite movies, Princess Bride. She was watching the movie unknown to Wallace, who was sitting a few rows before, and he seemed to like the movie too. After the movie was finished, Chantry saw Wallace standing next to her. After a few seconds, Wallace also noticed her, but both avoided each other. It was when they had eye contact, they greeted each other, lying that they didn't see each other. This eye contact made them spend some quality time together, in which they shared interesting things and had dinner together. At the end of that night, they ended up being friends with each other through Chantry's weird way. After this, they met several times at restaurants, parks, etc. They even talked through email during these meetups. All they did was to discuss their mutual interests, but it was true that they enjoyed being with each other and talking about such things. Days later, Chantry invited Wallace over to her place to have dinner, basically to make him meet her boyfriend Ben. On the other hand, Wallace was making Alan understand that he is just happy being friends with Chantry, whereas Alan claimed that Wallace is trying to break Chantry up with her boyfriend. Despite everything, Wallace went there for dinner and met Chantry's little sister there, who was trying to be touchy with him. Other than that, Wallace met Ben, who claimed him to be trying to be romantic with Chantry. Hearing this, Wallace was shocked and directly refused from having any kind of this intention. Then the bad thing happened. Ben's eye got burned, and he also fell out of the window mistakenly. Due to this, they ended up being in a hospital, but this was not the worst thing that happened that night. The worst thing was when Chantry and Wallace were in the corridor and Megan arrives there, Wallace's ex. She started saying nonsense as she misunderstood Chantry being Wallace's girlfriend. It became such an awkward situation for both of them. A few days later, Chantry was at her office, where her friends were discussing how she is worthy of being a project manager. She revealed how the position was offered to her first, but Chantry turned it down because she was happy being an animator, without any huge responsibilities, with a perfect boyfriend and peaceful life. Also, if she have accepted, she then needed to go to Taiwan, and she didn't want to be away from Ben. Unfortunately, the same thing happened that she was scared of. Ben was offered a promotion for which he had to be away for months traveling around. Ben considered talking to her first before refusing the offer, which clearly showed how much the offer was appealing to him, but Chantry's consent was also important. Considering his future, she agreed for him to accept the offer, deciding they will handle this long-distance relationship thing. On the other side, Nicole, Alan's girlfriend, was trying to make Wallace understand that love is stupid and he could have a chance with Chantry, as Ben is going to live in Dublin for months. It was in changing room where Wallace finally realized that he had a pool of feelings for Chantry in his heart when he saw a captivating tattoo on her back. They both came to the shop as Chantry wanted to buy a fancy dress for the business meeting, but unluckily the dress she chose to pick didn't fit her and got stuck. Then she called Wallace inside the changing room to help her, asking his eyes to be closed. But he was not able to control his eyes and saw a mesmerizing beauty in front of him. Later, Wallace visited Alan to let his heart out and talk about his feelings. Now, the time came for Ben to leave, and it was so difficult for Chantry to see him get out of their house. Who knows, maybe he comes back or not. Ben also gave her the open ticket to Dublin so she can visit him whenever she wants, but still her heart felt heavy. The next weeks felt like months to Chantry as she received and sent postcards to Ben from different cities, missed him, and was frustrated by unanswered calls. Days later, meeting with Wallace made her feel happy when she had fun with him, going to a club, game, and dinner. This was because Chantry expressed how she is having a crappy time without Ben, and she wants to start drinking, to which Wallace offered to accompany her. Moreover, Chantry and Wallace got to know much more about each other's personal and past life. The night ended up being quite good for both of them. Here, Chantry also gave a good lesson. We don't realize how anything can fall apart until it does. On one side, Chantry was spending time with her sister and friends talking about her recent life. On the other hand, Alan was introducing all the 5 options to Wallace on his chance of having a love life with Chantry. All the 4 options ended up ruining their friendship if Wallace was unlucky, and Wallace never intended to ruin such a beautiful thing in his life, and then Alan suggested him to move on, which was the 5th option. Now Wallace, Chantry, and her sister were attending Alan and Nicole's engagement ceremony, but they both surprised the whole audience, saying that they are going to get married tonight. Their marriage ceremony went amazing as everyone enjoyed dancing and witnessing the intense love of the lovely couple. There, Wallace made a speech which said everyone will find their other half someday, but then it all depends upon your luck. The night ended well and Dahlia, Chantry's sister, dropped Chantry and then Wallace at their houses, but she also intended to spend some romantic moments with Wallace, to which he refused as he thought of Chantry. Dahlia got furious and drove off, throwing Wallace out of the car and explaining the whole opposite thing to Chantry, all proving that Wallace is of bad character. The previous night, one more thing happened, which was when she called Ben to have some romantic talk with him. Unfortunately, he was in the middle of a meeting and was not able to respond nicely to, and Chantry got hurt. The next day, Chantry's boss again offered her a promotion, saying she deserved it. She also mentioned it is the last time she was offering her this, as the recent project manager made a whole mess of things. One night, Chantry, Wallace, Alan, and Nicole were all out to spend a night at the beachside, sitting surrounding the bonfire. They talked and laughed. Then they went swimming, taking their clothes off. It was all going well until Alan and Nicole took their clothes and ran, leaving behind only one sleeping bag. It was all done to make Wallace and Chantry come close to each other, but the opposite happened, and Chantry got furious over this hilarious prank. That night was awkward for them, and the next morning, when they woke up, their clothes were there and they returned. When Chantry entered home all confused by what she was feeling, her eye stopped at something, and it took only seconds to make a decision. The very next day, she was there in Dublin through that open ticket Ben gave her. When she was sitting on the stairs in front of Ben's house, waiting for him to come, finally, Ben came, but with a woman in his arms. Their Chantry got shocked, but quickly they justified that he was only helping his colleague and nothing more. Chantry agreed, but still a little confused. They spent the night together and went to meet Ben's friend the next day. It was going great until they revealed how Ben has been offered to work for more months in Dublin. Now, Chantry got hurt, and they ended up arguing about why he hadn't told her about this before. While Ben was trying to make the relationship work, Chantry didn't understand what to do. After some time, when Wallace got to know about Chantry being in Dublin, he immediately took a flight to Dublin. Upon reaching Ben's house, through the address paper at Chantry's house, Ben tells him that she is gone and punches Wallace. Exactly that time he got a voicemail from Chantry asking to meet her at the restaurant. He again flew back and met her. All this hurry just for the sake of the love he has in his heart for her. They met at the restaurant. Chantry was trying to say something, but wasn't able to because of the bruise on Wallace's face, thanks to Ben. When Chantry got to know about all this, she misunderstood the situation, claiming he was a liar, just like other men who flew to Dublin to break them up. Despite having mutual feelings, they ended up arguing. Days passed and Chantry was now packing her stuff as she was moving to Taiwan on accepting the job offer. Whereas Wallace decided to continue his medical school and got to know that Alan and Nicole are expecting their first baby. Even they both were throwing a getaway party for Chantry and invited him also, but he refused to come, saying they already have said their goodbyes. The night for the party came. On one side, Chantry was expecting Wallace to come, as she had already realized that she overreacted and said a bit too much to him. She was looking forward to meeting him. While Wallace was sitting on the roof of the attic staring at the beautiful sky thinking about his love Chantry. After battling with his mind, he finally decided to go to the party, and when he arrived everyone was gone except Chantry's sister, Alan, and some friends. Seeing Wallace coming, they all went to say their goodbyes, and only Chantry and Wallace were left alone with many emotions and thoughts in their minds. They started their conversation probably one last time talking about their future jobs. After a few minutes, they both gave each other what they had prepared for, and it turned out to be the same fool's gold. It was the start of their friendship, but now Wallace wanted it to be the start of their love life, as he finally confessed. He recalled how Chantry used to say don't ever give up on good things. It was one of the best things that happened to him. Whereas Chantry was feeling all happy at his confession and accepted her love for him as well, and from this night they began their beautiful relationship, enjoying some sweet moments with each other, which are going to last forever. After 18 months, Chantry returned from Taiwan, where she wasn't alone as Wallace stalked her there, and they spent their time enjoying and embracing each other's presence. They even got engaged, and now there will be their marriage ceremony. Their marriage ceremony was a blast as they gave a specified place to each other in their lives, not able to believe they were now husband and wife. Wallace and Chantry here also started the new phase of their life. The movie ends just as it started, but at the start, Wallace was all alone. Now he had his other half Chantry embraced in his arms sitting on the roof. They both were grateful to have each other in their lives, smiling at the beautiful future they are going to have together.